Unit 6. United Nations, UNICEF. The United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF, originally known as the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, is responsible for providing humanitarian and developmental aid to children worldwide, and it has won the Nobel Prize, the first to be awarded to an organization. Despite being highly active in fundraising, awareness, relief work, and research, very few people know the origin of the organization. UNICEF is supported entirely by the voluntary contributions of governments, non-governmental organizations, foundations, corporations, and private individuals, and receives no funding from the assessed dues of the United Nations. Most of the fundraising is done by UNICEF's 36 national committees. The voluntary support of millions of people around the world, partners in government, civil society, and the private sector. UNICEF was created in 1946 and began with a definite mission of providing emergency food and health care to children in the countries that had been destroyed by World War II in 1953. Its original name was changed to the United Nations Children's Fund to reflect its broader mission, but it retained the original acronym after being officially adopted as a permanent branch of the UN in 1954. The agency is among the most widespread and recognizable social welfare organizations in the world. Though its headquarters are in New York City, it operates in over 190 countries, focusing on the welfare of children in at-risk areas. Since 2006, the organization has concentrated on a few specific issues: child survival and development, basic education and gender equality, child protection and policy advocacy, and partnerships. UNICEF has been a key player in global development work since its beginning. UNICEF operates during emergencies in addition to supporting developing countries to provide children with basic resources and advocate for their rights. At last, UNICEF is working to create a world in which no child is ever bought or sold, stolen from a family, or otherwise victimized. UNICEF believes that every child deserves to grow up in a loving family, and it supports inter-country adoption when conducted ethically in accordance with prevailing law and best practice. At the same time, UNICEF works to support families in need so that no one ever feels forced by poverty or insecurity to give up a child. هذا النص بيحكي عن منظمة اليونيسف واهتمامها بالأطفال وحقوق الأطفال. رح ننتقل حاليا لحل أسئلة النص. Read the text and answer the following questions. What does the acronym UNICEF stand for? It stands for the United Nations Children's Fund. Where does UNICEF get its funding? Most of the fundraising is done by UNICEF's 36 national committees, the voluntary support of millions of people around the world, partners in government, civil society, and the private sector. Mention two purposes of establishing UNICEF. UNICEF was created in 1946 and began with a definite mission of providing emergency food and health care to children in the countries that had been destroyed by World War II. Why did UNICEF change its name? It changed its name to reflect its broader mission. What are UNICEF's main goals? UNICEF is working to create a world in which no child is ever bought or sold, stolen from a family, or otherwise victimized. UNICEF believes that every child deserves to grow up in a loving family, and it supports inter-country adoption when conducted ethically in accordance with the prevailing law and best practice. At the same time, UNICEF works to support families in need so that no one ever feels forced by poverty or insecurity to give up a child. ننتقل الآن للسؤال الثاني. Match these definitions with the highlighted words in the text. المطلوب مني أوصل الكلمات المحددة بالنص باللون الأزرق مع ما يناسبها من معنى. To defend or support, advocate. The activity of collecting money for a specific purpose, especially in order to help people. Fund. Existing or accepted in a particular place or at a particular time. Prevailing. To select and take or approve. Adopt. An organization or group of organizations that work together for a particular purpose. Corporation. ننتقل للسؤال اللي بعده بقسم ال vocabulary prefixes. Use the word in brackets to complete the sentences. Add the necessary prefix and or this and put the word in the correct form. Children love unwrapping parcels at Christmas time. I almost find he has unusual opinions. I often disagree with him. I'm sure he's lying, but it's going to be hard to disprove his story. After a brief speech, the minister unveiled the new statue. It took the removal men an hour to unload our things from the van. His phone was disconnected because he didn't pay his last bill. ننتقل للسؤال اللي بعده في قسم grammar القواعد. In 6 of these sentences, there is a verb in the wrong tense. Underline each mistake and write the correction. بهدول الست جمال في عندي أخطاء. المفروض أنا أحط خط تحت الخطأ وصححها. When I'll find the answer, I'll let you know. When I find the answer, I'll let you know. رح أقرأ الحل. My exams finished on 27th June. I'll be fine in the interview as long as they won't ask me technical questions. رح نبدل won't ask ب don't ask. What time is your meeting about to start? رح نبدل is your meeting about to start ب does the meeting start. I'll hand in my notice for this job after I'll get the contract for my new one. رح نبدل after I'll get ب get فقط. I'll text you before we set off. The bus doesn't arrive until 7:30 in the evening. The doesn't arrive رح نحط won't arrive. I've got my schedule for the Japan trip. We're about to fly to Tokyo at 10 a.m. on Monday and then travel by train to Kyoto for one night. رح نبدل we're about to fly ب are flying. The moment I receive my results, I'll phone you. رح نبدل I receive ب receive. ننتقل للسؤال اللي بعده. Complete the text with will be, will have or will have been plus the correct form of the verb in brackets. بدنا نكمل النص ب will be, will have or will have been مع الفعل بالفراغات. It's hard to make predictions too far into the future, but I think I can say quite a lot about my life. In about 10 years, I think I will still be living in the same city. By the time I will have finished my studies, and who knows, perhaps I will have found a good job, and I will probably be going out with the same friends too. By the time I'm 60, I expect that nearly everything will have changed, and everyone will have been trying their best to adapt to new circumstances. For example, I can't imagine that we will be using cars, because by then most of the oil in the world will have run out. People will be traveling in electric cars, or perhaps we will be walking everywhere. I hope that scientists will have solved pollution problems, but who knows, perhaps some other worse problems will have come along by then. ننتقل للسؤال اللي بعده بفقرة Everyday English Modesty. Put the following sentences in the correct order to make a meaningful dialogue. المطلوب مني إني رتب هدول الجمل لحتى يصير عندي حوار ذو معنى. I've never seen such an attractive and talented class of children. I think you as their teacher deserve the highest praise. Oh no, they are a splendid group of young people. I don't deserve any of the credit. I'm sure they are splendid, but I don't agree that you don't deserve any credit. I know for sure that you planned the lovely decorations in their classroom. I had very little to do with it. The children contributed lots of ideas themselves. Perhaps they did, but you gave them the idea in the first place, didn't you? And that project for helping old people is the finest thing I've seen for years. There was really nothing to do with me. They suggested it in the first place. I'm sorry, I just can't believe it had nothing to do with you. And even if they had the original idea, I'm sure you guided them in how to organize it. You're very kind, but it wasn't difficult at all. Anyone could have done it. It can't have been easy, and I don't agree that anyone could have done it. وهيك طلابنا بنكون هنا Unit 6 في كتاب الأنشطة workbook. Thank you so much for listening.